Hello everyone, and welcome to my new series where I visit the markets around London and search for the best places to find gluten-free food. And today we're in my favourite part of town, and you'll find out why soon, Broadway Market. Broadway Market is situated in East London at the base of London Fields, just north of the Regent's Canal gas holders. The street is a hub of independently owned businesses and on Saturdays hosts a large market from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The street's history can actually date all the way back to Roman times when it was a part of the Porter's Path, which was a vital supply route to the area as well as Phoenician trading ships in the Thames. But more recently, the Traders Market itself first opened in 2004 and was an immediate success and continues to be to this day. So what's Broadway Market all about? Well, it's a mixture of handmade goods, vintage clothes, oils, olives, flowers, jewellery, teddies, pet supplies, fresh produce, prints, potteries, cheese, and more cheese, and of course, food. But we aren't here to talk about just any food, we want to talk about the gluten-free stuff. So, the first stall up is Thai on the Fly. This is a completely gluten-free Thai food stall that makes delicious prawn, chicken, and tofu pad thais. Next up, Broadway Market has a completely gluten-free bakery stall, Floris's Bakery. This place has a wide range of both sweet and savoury gluten-free treats like arancini balls, pastries, donuts, banana bread, cheesecake, croquettes, brownies, muffins, and much more. Here's me trying one of the red velvet homemade Oreos. Next up is Calm Indian Cow's dosa stall, Dosage, which is of course all completely gluten-free and dairy-free as well. If you've never had dosa before, dosa is a thin, crispy pancake from South India which is made out of a fermented batter, predominantly consisting of lentils and rice, so it's something you can often find naturally gluten-free. You can get yours with tofu, paneer, egg, or classic masala, which means it's both vegetarian and vegan friendly. Right next door to the dosa on this particular day was spinach and agushi, cuisine from Ghana, and once again, all gluten-free. They serve several different stews along with jollof rice and fried plantain. It's truly hard to walk past without stopping by to find out what the amazing smells are. Next up is Makacha and their Indonesian coconut kitchen store, which is also entirely gluten and dairy-free. Their food is slow cooked and absolutely packed with flavour. I would highly recommend the coconut chicken dish, and all of their dishes are served with rice and pickled salad. Then we have Evolve for your juices and the Oyster Boy for your freshly shucked oysters, both naturally gluten-free. I also have a couple of places just to be wary of. Beijing Bougie is the first one. They offer gluten-free buckwheat galettes, but it is made on the same grill as the gluten one, so I would be wary of the cross-contamination. Another one to be careful of is the Caribbean roti wraps, which do say wheat-free on their banner, but unfortunately they use spelt flour, so are not gluten-free at all. So that's all our wonderful gluten-free stalls, but if you still aren't feeling any of those, never fear. The market itself is situated in a street that has some delicious options for gluten-free people. The first one up is The Batch, which is just a little touch of Aotearoa in the streets of London. The Batch is a New Zealand cafe that can basically make everything on their menu gluten-free, and I've always found them to have a great knowledge of celiac disease and cross-contamination. They even have gluten-free bakes that are wrapped in their cabinet to avoid cross-contact. My favourite meal there is the corn fritters with halloumi. Next up, wait a second, is this where I work? What? Aya and Suki is a vegetarian Eastern Mediterranean restaurant that serves falafel, halloumi, salad, wraps, and sometimes even gluten-free baked goods made by yours truly. That's right, you're likely to find some gluten-free vegan chocolate chip cookies and cakes every now and then. Now, unfortunately, everything in the restaurant isn't gluten-free, so I still do have to mention that there is gluten in the kitchen. But luckily, everything that goes into the fryer is gluten-free, so that means you can eat all the delicious fried falafel, batata hara, crispy cauliflower, and halloumi to your heart's content, which I do a lot. If you're in the area and you do feel like some baked goods, just flick me a message on Instagram and I'll let you know what there is on that day. Closer to the canal now is Porter's Path, the traditional fish and chip shop, which also offers some gluten-free choices. While it does take a little longer because they actually changed the oil for you, it's still nice that they thought of us gluten-free people. But because of this, I would suggest going in at a quieter time. The last restaurant I want to mention is the Dove Free House and Kitchen, which does offer a gluten-free menu. While this is still one that I need to visit myself, I have seen plenty of people mention that they serve gluten-free fish and chips and also have a few gluten-free beers available as well. But we're not done yet. There is a couple of shops on the street that I think are a must visit for gluten-free goodies. The first one, Fig and Grain, has the best wall of crisps that I've ever seen in London, and a majority of them are gluten-free. This is also my go-to place for Clive pies, my favourite gluten-free and vegetarian pies. Not all of them are gluten-free though, so make sure you're reading the label. They also have a few other bits and pieces, and they have a huge range of the King Soba gluten-free noodles, so that's where I always go to pick up my ramen. The other place, which I'm a tiny bit hesitant to mention, is Planet Organic. The reason that I am hesitant to mention it is that there was a big protest for them not to move onto the street, as they are not independently owned and would take customers away from Fig and Grain by undercutting prices. But unfortunately, Planet Organic has always been notoriously good for stocking gluten-free goodies, so there are a few bits and pieces that you can pick up there. One of my favourites being the delicious dochi. So that's my breakdown of Broadway Market, but there are still a few other special places that I would like to mention. Around the corner from Broadway Market is Nettle Market, a much smaller market, but a nice spot nonetheless. While there isn't a huge amount of gluten-free options, Acha, an Indian food container, lists all their bowls as no gluten ingredient containing, and over the way from that is Lucky Chip Burgers, and while unfortunately their burgers aren't gluten-free, the hot chips are. I know that's not as exciting to a lot of people, but I'll always mention a hot chip spot when I find one. Aside from that, there is a lovely little wine bar and also some beautiful seating, especially on a sunny day. Down the road back towards Cambridge Heath now, there is a restaurant called Love Shack. It's entirely vegan and has some wicked gluten-free options like oyster mushroom calamari, pancakes, dough balls, deep fried pickles, teriyaki tofu bites, and much more. The only thing I want to mention to be aware of is that they do use oat milk in their drinks. A little bit further down the road towards Bethnal Green train station is our final spot, Arepa & Co., which is another lovely spot for a gluten-free meal. Arepas are Colombian and Venezuelan food and are made of ground maize dough, meaning that they are naturally gluten-free. While not everything on the menu is gluten-free, there is plenty that is, including my favourite yucca fries. Thank you so much for coming with me on this first episode of Exploring the Markets in London. Next up will be Spitalfields Market and the surrounding areas in a couple of weeks, but after that, you tell me. I hope you venture over to this side of town if you're in London, but for now, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!